Hello, everyone. My name is Gina Alexandris. I am a career coach for legal professionals, and I'm really excited to be here with you in this new initiative that I have for 2024. Each month, I will take a theme related to career development and offer a video and other resources to help all of you to grow and succeed in your careers. I have been coaching lawyers, law students, legal professionals for over 3 decades. And I hope that you find the information and the resources useful. Feel free to share this document with others, this video with others, and feel free to leave me your feedback and your comments and some of the questions that you might have as we move forward. So each month over the next 12 months, I will, through this Career Confidence Corner, focus on a particular theme. And this month's theme for January is step one. It's to deeply reflect and to know yourself. And it's a step that oftentimes lawyers and legal professionals fail to do. So what do we mean by that? Let's get started thinking about values and strengths. And it's really, really important as we move forward to always take some time for this first step. Lawyers oftentimes are about doing. Let's get the job done. Let's move forward and let's just get the job done. And we don't oftentimes give ourselves permission. We're not given permission to reflect, sit back, and think about the things that really matter to us. How do we see ourselves? What goals do we have in our life overall? What are our strengths? Why and what do you want to do? And one of the comments that somebody recently said to me, which I really think is important, is who were you before the world told you who you should be? I think that's a really important question to ask. And fundamentally, what I'm inviting us to do in this short video is to think about two things, our values and our strengths. And it's going to mean that we're going to do some reflection. So sit back for a few minutes, grab a cup of coffee, a tea, whatever it is that'll get you thinking and open up to this idea, a few short minutes together. And one of the things I want to make sure is that you have a piece of paper in front of you, a journal, an open page on your computer, because I do want you to be thinking of some things. And if you don't do it now as you're watching, go back and save the information and be able to take some time to think about these things. So let's start on our journey. First step, of course, will come to the idea of values. When we talk about values, what we're asking about is what is core to you? What is absolutely fundamental to what defines you? And there's some ways that we can think about drilling for values. And I've just listed a few here that I want you to explore or consider thinking about. And remember, values is something that I want you to define in your own terms. Oftentimes, I have seen lists of value charts, and while they can be helpful, what I find is that I'd rather know from you what you define as core to yourself. So using your language to be able to think about what's important for yourself. So how do you do it? Here's a few ways that you can do to drill down to think about your values. One thing that I oftentimes get my clients to do is to look forward 20 years. If you're starting out, maybe it's 30 years. If you're furthering your career, maybe it's in the next 10 years. But think about attending a professional function where someone's about to give a speech about you. What do you want them to say? What is it that in the future you want people to look back and say that you are about? So think about that in terms of how you want people to explain your career, to think about your career, to think about you within that professional setting. The other thing to think about is to explore the people who really inspire you. One or two people who you find have motivated you, inspired you, whether you know them personally or whether you don't. They could be somebody historical, they could be somebody current in your life, they could be somebody personal to you, or they could be a celebrity that you know and are very, very intrigued by. What is it about them that inspires you? Think about their demeanor, think about their causes, think about their actions, think about the way that they carry themselves. What is it that truly inspires you about one or two people? The third opportunity is what we call the peak experience. And some of my clients really love this opportunity to think back to a time when, what we say, that you've been at your peak. Think about being at the top of the mountain. Life has been full, life has been exhilarating, it's flowing. You were on a roll. Certainly, there might have been some challenges, but you've been able to cope with them and deal with them and succeed in them. What specifically was important to you about this particular peak experience? Think about it in the context of where you were. What was the timing? Was it a particular uh, hour, a particular day, a particular period of time in your life? Who were the others that were involved? Try and give as many specific details as you possibly can. And then through that, think about what values were you honoring that made this such a peak experience for you. The other way that I get people to think about what their values are, what's important to them, is think about what issues upset or frustrate you. When you're reading the news, or when you're reading the news or watching the news on television, what is it what themes or issues frustrate, upset you? What make you want to move in action? What are those issues that are near and dear to you? So you can think about what ignites you, which is the next thing. What do you spend your time doing or thinking about that energizes you? On the flip side, what is that upsets you? Both of those two will help you explore what those values are, the core elements that make you who you are and that make all that you do really relevant. As we think about that, and it's not just being able to think about that, but it's really being able to record it. So the next thing that I'd want you to do when you get the chance is to actually list down your values in this type of a chart. Simple chart, 3 columns, your value goes in the middle. And I want you to list as many as you can, 5, 10, 15 values. But then what I want you to do is go back and rank those values. What kind of priority do those values have? And if you can, on the top of the page, write the date, because sometimes our circumstances change the priorities that we have. Typically, the values won't change by too much, but the priority in our life certainly sometimes will move the values up or down that priority list. So ranking the values that you've listed from 1 to 10, from 1 to 5, from 1 to 15, whatever number of values that you have. And that can be a little hard, because you're putting priorities on the things that matter. And you've already said that these are true values to you. And now I'm asking you to prioritize. And then the next step, the third step, is to go and figure out how much of an alignment you have. How in sync are you with the values currently? So if these are the things that are important to you in your current work, in your current job, in your current career, are you finding that your values are aligned with the experience that you have in the workplace? So let me give you a brief example. A couple of my values that were really important to me always have included flexibility, and that was always torn with stability. And sometimes the priorities would go up or down depending on my circumstances. So flexibility was one that has always been there. Learning and education, respect is something that I've always had as a value. Celebrating and really enjoying people and rooting them on and cheering them on, and family, and not necessarily in that order. So those are some of the things that I found when I did some of these exercises that were really, really important to me. And when I looked for work, when I looked for roles, when I looked for jobs, I always tried to see if my values could be aligned with the organization, with the role that I did, with the individuals that I worked with. And where they didn't, that's when I would feel the frustration, the greatest frustration. When they were aligned, it was really an enjoyable work experience. And there have been several of those along the way as well. So when you think about your values, think about the experiences that can provide you the information about your values, rank them, and then also think about how aligned you are. And that really gives you an indication as to whether or not you need to think about staying where you are and really shining in the role that you have, or perhaps time to figure out, is there something else that you need? Is the job something that you need to change? Is the organization something you need to change? Or perhaps in some instances, is the full career something that you want to change? All those can be done, but not until you've taken time to reflect on what those values are. And as you're thinking about values, the next thing I want you to do is also think about your strengths. Think about the things that really, really feel, I don't want to say effortless, but that feel like they are your superpowers, as people have oftentimes said. Dig to find the strengths that you have. And sometimes, because many of us in law in particular don't like thinking about our strengths. Think about the coffee chats that you've had, or the resumes that you've put forward, or the interviews that you've gone to. Talking about ourselves or thinking about ourselves and in our strengths sometimes feels uncomfortable. Here is the permission to actually think about the great things that make you you, the things that you can do fabulously. And what are some of the things that you can use to think about what those strengths are? Well, again, here are a few ideas of how to develop that strengths list that you have. If you don't have it, the first one, a happy folder content, let me explain what it is. And if you don't have it, I hope you start it soon, because it really can provide you a couple of things. One, a list of what your strengths are. But two, it can also provide you at times when you have those negative thoughts in your mind, the self-doubts that we all have. That happy folder content can remind you, yeah, you know what? I've got these key strengths. I've got these really great opportunities that I've had, and these things that I've done that I've done really well. So what's a happy folder content? Either a hard copy if you want to, a file folder, or on your computer somewhere. Keep a folder, and you can call it my happy file, or you can call it my congratulations folder. Whenever somebody writes to you, a text, an email, sends you an actual letter to say, thanks so much for doing what you did. I really appreciated you being a great listener when I had a problem to talk about. I really appreciated the memo that you drafted. I really loved how you took care of that difficult client and eased us through a difficult transaction with that client. Or I really, really loved how you organized that recent event. Put those comments, put those letters, put those notices by other people into a happy folder content. Look back at it periodically. Search it for that strength reminder for yourself. And also, when you're feeling like you're not, when you're feeling a little doubtful, go back to it. So similar to that, if you don't have a happy folder content, ask. Get the feedback from 3 to 5 trusted people. I oftentimes get my clients to do this, and sometimes they are really surprised at the things that come back. So ask 3 to 5 people, and hopefully they are people from different parts of your life. They could be a family member, it could be a former classmate, it could be an associate, it can be a boss, they could be a trusted friend. 3 to 5 different people that you can ask, hey, what do you see as my key strengths? It does a couple of things. First of all, it lets somebody else really give you some information, some feedback that they probably don't get a chance to say too often to you. But to be able to think about what your strengths are as an individual, as a professional, is really useful exercise. And it also does the following. Just as I said before, that sometimes in the happy folder content, it helps to think about what others say when we are at an interview. If you've either had the happy folder content, or you've asked 3 to 5 people about what your strengths, if you don't feel comfortable saying, I feel I'm strong in working through difficult problems with difficult clients, you can say, I've been told that, or it's been said that, or in my experience, my colleagues or bosses have said to me that I am fill in the blank. And for some people, it's easier to say somebody else has said this about me than to say it about yourself. We'll come back to developing the ability for you to say it yourself, but for the time being, at least find out what others feel are some of your strengths. And you might be surprised. I've had clients who, for example, have asked this question, and they don't think they have really great time management skills. But compared to people that they've asked, it's come up 2 or 3 times among the 5 people that they said. So they have to sit back and say, maybe I'm thinking about this in too much of a perfectionist sense. Maybe I actually do have strong time management skills, for example. So what comes back to you might be a surprise for you, or it might be something you've already known, but is reinforced. The other thing to do to identify some of your strengths is review your schedule. Write down what you do daily and weekly. You've probably got your calendar for sure. Take a look at it, and what are the things that you have done? Did you negotiate? And put a star or an asterisk next to the things that you feel that you did really well. Did you really have a great client meeting? Because you connect really well with individuals. Did you do a really wonderful presentation for your department and got rave reviews by others afterwards? So look through your schedule and write down, and not just for one day. Think about it over the course of a week, maybe even a couple of weeks, because sometimes our schedules don't offer the same activities on a weekly basis. What activities energize you? So when you walk into the office or when you're at home working, what are the things that you really love to do? Where do you really start feeling like you can go on without even thinking about time? And the other thing that I want to say about strength is don't just think about what your current strengths are, but also think about what are the skills that I'm also developing now. I'm not really great at it yet, but I know that with a lot of hard work or some hard work, I can develop that into a strength. Or what is a strength that potentially you're interested in developing? I cannot yet be a strong advocate, but I think with some practice, I really do have the foundations to be able to shine in that area. It really is important for us as we take time to think about our careers, to allow ourselves to explore internally, to reflect, to think about what our values are, what's important to us, what our strengths are. And then as we meet, we can then move forward to think about what the career options are for us as we move forward. I would love to have you stay in touch. I've got my email, I've got my website and my LinkedIn there. Please connect. I hope you found this little video and resource helpful. And I hope that you will join me next month as we talk about the next session, which is once you have done some reflecting, let's ensure that you clearly know your professional landscape, that you understand the different options, the different possibilities, and the language that goes with it. So stay tuned for February, but for now, hope you take some time to reflect on the wonderful things that make you, you. Thanks.